Hello everybody, thanks for joining me. I want to talk to you a little bit about haylage. I was out mowing my pasture. As you can see behind me, it's mowed over on this section. Part of this over here needs mowed. Well, as I was mowing, I was thinking I wished I had a way to preserve this grass and feed it to my horses in the winter. The problem with the grass, I couldn't mow it and rake it and bale it once it dries out, but then when it dries out it just turns yellow because most of it's foxtail grass. It's got good food value, I guess, if you had a good fence around your pasture and turn your horses loose in it, or your goats or sheep. But the fence around my property and here behind me, it don't have good fencing. I couldn't keep my horses in. They'd be out on the road, so that's one reason I don't turn them out there. And of course, foxtail, when it dries out, just turns yellow. But if I could feed it like it is now, when it's nice and wet and green, it'd have good food value, whether I fed the pigs or goats or sheep or horses or whatever. The problem is when you mow it like this and it's green, it's preserving it. The only way you can preserve wet alfalfa or grass bales or mulch is you have to seal out the oxygen. You can buy a bale wrapper. They have industrial ones for the big round bales, and what it does is wraps the bales in plastic, seals out the oxygen so it ferments and turns into haylage. The advantage of feeding haylage is its higher protein level. The drier and the older alfalfa gets, the less protein value it has. If you can put up your hay with a higher moisture and seal out the oxygen and let it ferment, it's got a higher protein value and better for your animals. And as I was mowing this pasture out here, I was thinking I wished I had a way to bag up all this grass, put it in containers, and vacuum out the grass, or vacuum out the oxygen from the grass and let it ferment or turn into haylage, and I could feed my animals all winter long with it. So what I'd done is I went out, I took a mason jar, as you can see right here, it's full of grass, and I vacuum sealed it, sucked out the oxygen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the closet and or in a cupboard where there's no sunlight, and I'm going to leave it in there for a couple weeks. And in a couple weeks I'll do another update video on this and showing you what it looks like. And if I got all the oxygen out, it should still be green like this in color and no mold. That's the problem with grass after you mow it. If it's too high of moisture content, or alfalfa as far as that goes, if it's too high in moisture content and you bale it, it's too wet, your bales get moldy and then you don't have no food value there. The animals won't eat it. So that's what I done. I grabbed this jar, vacuum sealed it, vacuumed out the air, and we'll see what it looks like in a couple weeks. If you could find containers that you could fill full of grass clippings after mowing your yard and suck out all the oxygen, you could store it and feed your animals through the winter for basically nothing. I'd like to get a bale wrapper that hooks up to my BCS tractor, but they're kind of expensive. I think they're like $3,800, $3,900, somewhere around there. The advantages of having one would be you could bale wet alfalfa or grass bales, or ones with higher moisture content, wrap them in plastic, which would seal out the oxygen, and let them ferment and turn into haylage. Then you'd have no loss. If you put up wet bales, they're just going to get moldy and you won't be able to feed them. Secondly, you'll have a higher food value, higher protein level, so your animals are getting more benefit out of the same amount of hay by wrapping it and sealing out the oxygen, make haylage. Third advantage would be you'll be able to put up hay further into the season. Lots of times this time of year, late August, September, even into October, as long as we don't have no snow, farmers aren't able to get that fourth cut in alfalfa because it's not good drying weather. It's just going to mold on them, so they don't bale that fourth cutting. Sometimes they get a fourth cutting, but just if the summer went right and had good optimal weather of being able to cut your hay and put it up dry, sometimes you do get that fourth cutting, but not always. Well, this would help with that. You could get that fourth cutting because you would mow it down, let it lay a day or two. Of course, it'd still be too wet to just bale and put up wet, but you could bale it and wrap it with plastic or with a bale wrapper, and then you actually got that fourth cut, so you're not losing your crop. I'd like to get a bale wrapper because I know there's a lot of places that I could go and mow and rake and bale later in the fall that normally the farmers don't do, and I'd be able to put up that hay and wrap it and have extra food for my animals, or even sell it. Anyways, I'm gonna let you go. Enough rambling on. Come back in a couple weeks and we'll see what this looks like, see if my experiment worked. Hopefully I got all the oxygen out, and like I said, this grass should look the same. Shouldn't be any mold or anything in it. I vacuum sealed it, so in a couple weeks what I'll do is I'll show you it. If as long as it looks like this on the outside, we'll pop the top off, I'll dump it out and make sure there ain't mold in the center. Anyways, maybe you guys come up with the idea on how you can store your grass clippings from your house yard to feed your goats or your pigs or horses or sheep or whatever you might have, cows, calves, throughout the winter. If you got a good idea and way we can preserve our grass clippings, let me know. Leave the comments below. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget I love you. See you all in the next one. Bye.